Hello, everybody. My name is Valerie Gilchrist, and I'm broadcasting from Augusta, Georgia. This broadcast is Esther's Purpose. And my guest today is Tavetta Patterson, and we're going to talk to her in just a moment. But I want everyone to know that before I introduce her, I want to say that WYTV7 is a nonprofit organization, and we do take donations that are used to broadcast nationally and internationally all of our programs. Our listeners are across the globe, and we want to encourage them through all of the programs. But Esther's Purpose listeners, we want to encourage you, those of you that have been through various trials of life, and we want to encourage you to stay on course. By hearing the testimonials of my guests that come on and talk with me, not only do they want to encourage you, but also they want to show you how they came out in victory and with purpose through their trials. And with that said, all right, Tavetta, how you doing today?
I am great. How are you today?
I am doing awesome. Excited about what we're going to talk about today, because we're going to talk about you today. All right?
Okay.
Okay. Now, before we talk about what you're doing now, we're going to talk about what brought you to where you are now. So you just begin sharing wherever point you want to start.
Sure. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. I wanted to share a little bit about my journey through pain and into purpose. My very first pain in life was one, not being claimed by my biological father.
Mm-hmm.
And then being born and raised in the housing projects of Gary, Indiana, very transient, attending 5 elementary schools before 3rd grade. But my mother was doing the best that she knew to do with the hand she had been dealt in life. So moving from place to place, being labeled as a sick child, I had to spend 6 months in the hospital in Children's Memorial right next door in Chicago, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Being molested as a child, and then my godmother passed when I was 14. After that, I was raped. Then there was a shooting at my high school, so it was a series of unfortunate, one trauma after another trauma after another trauma. And then at 16, the turmoil in my house became too unbearable. And so at 16 years young, I moved out of my mother's apartment. And I had witnessed her experiencing domestic violence, and I walked out of that and walked directly into it. And so from ages 16 until about 21, I kept attracting boys who liked to beat on girls. And I had to steel myself and understand, why was this happening to me? And it was, I wanted to be loved, but I didn't know how to love myself. So I started attracting that into my life. And so the physical abuse, the verbal abuse, the mental abuse, it all kind of caused me to start to have challenges with parts of my life. I could remember, parts I couldn't remember. But what I did know was that it was too much pain and not enough peace. And so I had to stop and do something different.
Oh, I like that. Too much pain and not enough peace.
Yes.
Woo, that is good. Now, Tavetta, I want to read and let my audience know that you are from Gary, Indiana.
Yes, ma'am.
And what you shared with me is that you add value to lives by empowering people to win in life. And I think that was a little nugget you just shared with us right there. Too much pain and not enough peace. You are a speaker. You're a published author. You are president of Abundant Life Publications.
Yes.
You're an instructor at Indiana University, Northwest Senior University, founder of Gary Life Education Initiative, and on OutSchool and an OutSchool teacher. And I want you to tell me what that is in just a moment. And you speak to make positive difference in the world.
Yes.
Now, after hearing before, typically I introduce first.
Okay.
And when you started talking, I went, I didn't introduce her first.
It's
It bothered me for just a moment until that was a great introduction to who you are by you starting with that and then me saying, this is who she is now.
Yes.
So, because, you know, people don't understand that there is a story before the glory, right?
Always.
Always. And
Always.
so for them to hear that first and then, because sometimes, you know, when we're introducing people, sometimes with people, that kind of turns them off when they hear all of that first.
Yeah.
Because you know how we'll, just, oh, well, I don't even want to listen because she's not even going to be able to understand how I feel.
Wow.
And so, we were just given an opportunity to actually, before we heard all of that,
Yes.
as far as the introduction, the real introduction of who you are at the core, the original, where you originated from.
Yes.
So that is great. So before you continue that, tell me what an OutSchool teacher is.
So it is an online platform that allows me to teach nationally and internationally for children grades kindergarten through 12th grade. And so what I've done is every place where I had a pain point in life, I have turned it into a purpose point. And so, yes.
Every place you had a pain point in life, you turned into a purpose point. I tell you, there's some good nuggets you're throwing out there. Go ahead.
Thank you. And so one of the topics that I teach is a right through grief class. And through that class, because I have experienced grief in my life personally, through that class, I walk people through the process of victory over grief as opposed to being stuck in grief. Some of the other subjects I'll be teaching are around business and college and career readiness. All of the stages of life that I've done in my world physically, I am now transitioning to teaching online, because then you go everywhere in the world, as I stated, both nationally and internationally, and it'll be video classes, so they'll also save them and then be able to replay them. So
wow,
it's a broader reach. My goal is to have a broader reach.
Oh, well, you're working towards it. That is just awesome. Now, when you talk about working through grief,
yes,
that was something I learned much later in life.
Okay.
Because I didn't go through any therapy, didn't know anything about that. I actually was diagnosed at in third grade by my teacher, called my mother into a parent-teacher conference and said to her, Valerie's brain runs too fast.
Wow.
And because it runs so fast, it frustrates her. And she has a hard time comprehending and reading and focusing and writing and doing all that. But we actually have some things that, and they weren't talking medicine then to my mother. What they told her are, there's some things that we can teach her to help her slow that down so she could be more successful in school and stop being frustrated. Well, the unfortunate side of that story is that when she took that home to my father, he said, there's nothing wrong with that girl. So I never knew anything about it until in my mid to late 20s, when I tried to go to school, because I was, all of my siblings, they all went to school fine, graduated, got degrees. I went in the military like my dad because I knew school was not for me, and I didn't like the school. I didn't like school, reading, writing, none of that.
Okay.
And so I did have an opportunity to go to college, and I said, when I was stationed in Texas, and I started going, and I started noticing that I would be writing, and in my mind, I was writing everything that I thought. And when I looked at the paper, I said, what is that? It was all jumbled up and looked crazy. Wow. And I called and I told my mother, and she goes, oh, I know it. And I said, excuse me?
Wow.
And she said, and so she told me the story of what the teacher said when I was in third grade and what my dad said. And I thought, okay. So I was grounded, punished all my life, growing up at home, thinking I was dumb because all the rest of my, siblings were performing well, thinking something was wrong with me. And there was, but no one told me, right? And now you're telling me that there was something wrong, that all of this frustration that I had could have really been avoided. Right. So what I want to ask you is, do you run into that? People that maybe didn't know it, or you saw it later and you had to kind of explain that to them, that this is what's going on. How do you navigate that when you see it as a teacher?
So I have the experience in school of being told to be quiet often.
Okay.
And now that is another place where it was a pain point because I was negatively disciplined for it, but now it's a purpose point because that's what I get to do. I get to travel and talk. And so what I do, whether I am teaching at a conference, in a classroom, a webinar, or a workshop, I always seek the spark.
Mm.
And once I find that spark in a person or a student, I direct it into a positive outlet, because
Wow.
you don't want to shut down a talent that is a natural talent. You just want to be sure that you direct that energy in the right direction. And so that's what I do. I look for the spark, and when a child or a student, adult, whoever I am teaching, when they light up, when they're doing something, I say, okay, let's go in this direction. If I had a student one time who never wanted to sit in class, so he became the classroom leader. And that was directing that energy into a positive outlet. We never want to allow people to become shut down when they have a talent.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? We want to just direct it in the right direction. And so that's what I do. And then to your point about grief, I had a very early experience. As early as 8 years old, I can recall seeing a dead body laid out on the street. I saw classmates and friends and relatives being murdered, because I grew up in Gary at the time when it was considered the murder capital of the world.
Wow.
And so that reality of grief for me, it started very early on. And then in 2013, August 5th at 7 a.m., I witnessed my mother take her last breath on this earth. And your life is never the same after that. And I've seen a lot of people stop in grief. And so because I lived through it and I have experienced victory over it, I believe it is my assignment in humanity to help other people get through it. And so I developed the Right Through Grief based on my book, From Morning to the Morning.
Wow. That's now see, and here's another connection with us, because my mother, December 10th of 2016, passed away before my eyes when her and I were talking just like you from a PE episode. Wasn't aware. I am not a medical professional. I know nothing. All of my medical skills are watching ER on TV and all of the trauma shows.
Yes.
And literally her and I were talking like this, and within seconds, wow, every trauma show I saw on TV was happening before the bells and whistles going off, people running around, people with all different colors, wardrobe was coming in, different colors that I found out later represented different levels of care that she was needing. And my father has Alzheimer's, and he was sitting there. So even though I'm 56 now, I was 54 then.
Okay.
I was still the child. This is my dad and this is my mom, and my mother's sitting here fighting for her life, and I can see the fear in her eyes, and my dad sitting here like nothing is going on, and I'm this child. Right. And it was traumatic for me. And I tell you, just what you just said, for 7 months after that, my life froze.
Yes.
I didn't know how to grieve that. Right. There was nobody who could help me because I couldn't even talk. People kept saying, "What do you need?" And I wasn't able to articulate what I needed. I've never been down this road before.
Right.
I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was just struggling.
It's different.
Yeah, it's very different. But what it did later on was made me much more sensitive, like what you're talking about. When you see somebody, you can spot it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a friend to ask me whose mother passed after my mother passed. She said, "Does your life ever go back to normal?" I said, "Absolutely not." No. What happens is you learn to live in a new normal, and you have to embrace what that new normal means for your life, as opposed to wishing you had the life you had before, because we can wish as much as we like, but wishing doesn't bring it back. We have to figure out how to move forward, because what I have learned is as you move forward, you get closer to brighter days, you get closer to your peace, you get closer to your joy and your strength being restored. And so that's what I do with Right Through Grief.
That's awesome. Well, I do want to say again that I'm Valerie Gilchrist. This is Esther's Purpose, and I'm broadcasting out of WYTV7 out of North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. I want to remind our listening audience that WYTV is a nonprofit organization, and we do accept donations. So if you would like to sow a seed, please feel free to do so. Go on the website, click the donate button, and do that. I just want you to know that when you sow that seed, that you're helping WYTV7 and Esther's Purpose impact lives for the better. That money goes to broadcasting nationally and internationally, so people can hear my guests like Tavetta today talking about a great subject, because whether we know it or not, we have to go through grief in every stage of our life. Things that we don't think that we have to grieve. And one of the things that she's talking about clearly as well is grieving our growing up, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of us didn't grow up in the best environment. We didn't have Leave It to Beaver families.
No,
we had real life families and issues that was going on. So go ahead, Tavetta, and talk to us some more about that, how you're helping people. And I love how you're talking about these students, because, you know, until listening to you today, my children are grown now.
Okay.
But I really have had so much experience where it seemed like teachers are just not compassionate anymore. I have grandchildren who are teenagers, so they've been going through school for a while now. And it just doesn't seem like teachers have the compassion like they used to actually get involved with and doing things like what you're talking about. Actually seeing a child who's got, you know, a character trait that you can turn that into something great for that child instead of making it like a handicap. Talk more about that.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I do now is I actually consult with leaders of schools, nonprofit organizations, community organizations, and businesses, and I help to train them to look for that spark.
Wow.
To help the child discover and live their purpose. Because what I do understand is that many of the systems that we have in place today were systems created for generations before us, and the minds of people, not just children, but the minds of people, they operate differently, and technology has advanced so much. And so what we need to do is find ways to bring in what is happening into our classrooms, into our communities, and our workplaces, to make it beneficial to the learner, because at every age of life, there's something new to learn. And so as people's desires to learn change, we have to change the methods and update the methods. And so I enjoy incorporating, be it video or websites, interactive games. Every stage of life, there's a way of finding something to enjoy. And so if we can deliver different strategies to help people win in life, that's what, when I say I empower people to win, I just match the people with the tools that already exist to help them win in life.
That's awesome. Now, I did, when I was 50 years old, the Lord moved on my heart to go back to school and get a degree. And I thought, Lord, really? Wow. First of all, I'm 50. Now I'm 56 now. I said, Lord, I'm 50. Really? My children are grown. I have grandchildren. Go back to school. Really? And he had to go back to school to, and I majored in elementary. I got my little associates. And so I've been breathing since that 2-year degree, and I haven't went back yet. And he hasn't.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yes, but I did. And I actually went online. And I found out that online was best for me. You know why? Because I knew how I learned, and it was better for me to teach. Let me read it. Let me put my hands on it. Let me digest it myself. Yeah. Just give me the material and tell me what the expectation is. Right. And I can work that out. If I have a question, I'll ask you. And that's really, you know, how I did that. And I was amazed, because I was a straight A student for those whole 2 years. And I thought, really? You know, and I thought, I didn't think I had the ability. But once I was learned, and one of the things, I got my degree in elementary education with an emphasis in mathematics. And I did that because for me, everything is black and white. I don't do that gray thing. Everything's black and white. This or that, right? So I found that out about myself.
Okay.
And I found out that I learned better myself, right? And so as I was going to school and I was making these A's, it raised my self-esteem, and I learned that I wasn't stupid.
Yes.
Right.
You're brilliant.
I'm not stupid, guys.
You're not stupid. You're brilliant.
I just needed to figure out for my, you know, how I needed to learn, and then articulate that.
The
and
method,
so now I do that.
The strategy.
Yes. And and I said all that to say, I learned about those learning, you know, the learning patterns that people have. And it would be great if you can match the teacher's instructing style with that learning style. But unfortunately, when you're one teacher and you've got 20 plus 30 kids in your class, you can't teach to every different learning style, but it did equip me to recognize them. Like you said, that spark. I like what you said, how to recognize the spark. So even though I didn't go on and, and get that bachelor's and get that, certification to teach in the school system, but I do teach, in other realms I teach.
The world is your stage.
Yes, it is.
The world is your classroom.
Yes. And so, I do that way. And it really helps people when you can speak to them and they get it, right? In the way they can. So that is exciting for me. So tell me about your most challenging student, somebody that you didn't get that spark right away. How did you navigate that?
Sure. So I had a student whose reputation was to be a challenge. And so I was told that this particular student could not participate because of their challenges. And so I invited the student in and I listened. And after I listened and I introduced myself to this student, I had that student's attention because I understand that education of any sort, it is a two-way street. You are a teacher and you are a student as long as you are breathing. But what I believe happens so often is that people go in with the mentality to teach only and not to learn. And so once I learned this student's behavior, their learning style, what their dreams and goals were, I was able to build a firm foundation. And until this day, if this student sees me, it is a hug. It is a warm embrace because I saw the greatness. We have to look for the greatness in every person we meet because it's there, but are we willing to listen and are we willing to learn? So that's listening and learning.
Yes. Well, yes. When you stop making it all about you.
Yes.
I think we miss it when we make it all about us. It's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about me. And that says something about that individual there, that there was something that was missing in their developmental process. When we decide, everything is all about us. That has been some great nuggets. And I just want to say again that I'm Valerie Gilchrist. This is Esther's Purpose, and we're broadcasting through WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And we have just been I'm just so excited from talking to Tavetta today. This has been great.
I've enjoyed it as well.
Yes, because, there are people who are going to be listening to this broadcast, and you're going to just really be such an inspiration to them. People who have been struggling in school scholastically, not only school, but even when you transition to work. If you just kind of halfway made it through school like I did, and you start working, you running into the same problems because you have to learn your job.
Yeah.
So whatever struggle that you had in school, it's going to continue to follow you until you A, identify it, and B, come up with tools to defeat it. Is that right?
Absolutely, positively true.
And so what do you want to say, as a closing, what do you want to say to our adults who maybe learning skill hasn't been identified? They might have heard it for the very first time today, that there are different learning, ways of learning that they can maybe figure out. Is there a book that they can read, a website they can go to, that they can maybe take a test, something to teach for them to find out for themselves what my learning style is so I can stop being defeated?
Absolutely, positively. So one of the things that I would say is I had to do this personally is make peace with your past. And that's an inside job, not something you can delegate to someone outside of you. Seek the resources that are around you. I offer books. I am also a published author. And so I offer books to help people win in every area of their life as well. And of course, people can visit my website if they like.
Give your website.
It is tavetta.webs.com. Once again, it's tavetta.webs.com. And I am also on social media as T Speaker Author, the letter T, the word speaker, and the word author.
That is great, because I'm sure if I was just listening to this, I'd be writing that down right now and I'd be clicking. I need you to talk to me a little further about that, because, you can break so many people out of bondage. Just you being transparent today and you talking about that. And I'm so glad that you navigated your struggles and didn't let them take you down so that you could be the gift that you are in the earth, because you truly, truly are a gift.
Thank you.
To people who struggle with learning, because we, a lot of us label ourselves as dumb, stupid, we can't learn. Even if someone else doesn't say it, our self-talk will have us defeated, won't it?
Yes. And stop. That's what if I can close with any message, don't repeat what your haters say about you. Repeat what God says about you. I tell myself, I am anointed, I am beautiful, I am blessed, I am called, I am chosen to live out the will of God for my life and to do it in a major way. And so I would encourage you and everyone listening to stop repeating what haters say about you and get in agreement with what God says about you.
Oh, amen. Amen. That is so awesome. I want to encourage our listening audience again. My name is Valerie Gilchrist. You've been listening and watching Esther's Purpose through WYTV7 out of Charlotte. We are a nonprofit organization so that we can continue to have people like Tavetta on the show that can free people from things that had them in bondage ever since they were little children. Because again, we broadcast nationally and internationally. I want to encourage everyone to go on Facebook. We're on WYTV7 is on Facebook. Esther's Purpose is on Facebook. Go on there, go through our page, like us, follow us, share us, encourage the world to let them know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. All right. Thank you so much again, Tavetta. We so appreciate your sacrifice in coming. And again, thank you, listening audience, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.